Hi everyone, this is Dr. Bart here with another live show. Today, with my excellent guest, Stoyman, we'll be talking about, well, surprise, surprise, product management. And we'll be focusing more on our BAT or product belt, where we have our tools, our frameworks, our tactics, and hopefully everyone will be more knowledgeable about the topic after our meeting, and you will be ready to brace for your challenges at your product positions, current, future, who knows. If you have any questions, we're here to help. I'll do have to do some trickery in order to see the questions live, but that's up for the moderator. And yeah, hi Stoyman, thank you for joining me.
Hello, Bart. It's nice to meet you here. Thanks for the invitation.
So before we started, of course, thank you for being here. Where are my manners? I've full disclosure, dear viewers, I have been up since 5 a.m. as a young dad, so you might notice that my eyes are a bit tired. I hope that caffeine will help me to get this more lively. But this is just a little bit of talking filler before you all join us. And Steinman, how was your day? How are you looking forward to our hourly session today?
Look, first of all, thanks to my co-founder Megan. She made sure that this event happens and organized on our behalf. It's very interesting. I have a small story around the event. So when I first saw the topic, I was pretty nervous in my guts when I saw it because it's modern tools and the future of product management and stuff. And myself, I like to think of myself like a dinosaur, old school, have his own schemes, tactics, tricks, and magic happening. Like bulletproof stuff that never change. And it was pretty challenging. I had to actually dive deep into some modern tools to play around to see how it goes. And hopefully it will go just nice.
Well, you can't beat me when it comes to being ancient because I'm using a graphic editor called PaintShop Pro 7 that was
Oh.
released in 1998, and I can use it now because the the trial period mechanism is all broken. So I am on my 20,000th day of a 30-day trial. So
Nice. Yeah, I'm a big
yeah.
fan of pen and paper, and this is still the way I'm brainstorming. I recently swapped to a tablet. It's interesting. You can share screen in meetings, so I'll share about those as well.
Well, I'm a bit more sophisticated than you. I use the electronic notepad, even Notepad++, to do most of
Oh,
my notes or task lists. But
all right.
enough with the what's older than millennial boomer. Let's not do the boomer product management. Let's talk modern and the future, next gen, if I may plug my book here, product management. So we've
Let's do.
been
Let's do.
through, yeah. So we are officially beginning now. Small talk is over. Hopefully, most of you already joined. So, we had some turmoil years behind us. The COVID, the emergence of ChatGPT and other LLMs. So, our role as product manager really evolved in 5 years, didn't it?
Indeed, it evolved, and the biggest change that happened through for me, I was actually during COVID, I was working with a fully remote team, and it's not only COVID that hit. Unfortunately, my team was based in Ukraine, and what happened
Unfortunately, yeah.
was that the war happened, and then we were completely remote. So my team and we had to work in a completely disconnected manner, and this is in the same spirit of COVID, where everything became fully remote. And this was huge because at some point you can feel that the pain that all the meetings, everything is happening it's all just about work. There is no the chit chat, there is no the connection. You lose the trust within the team, and at some point you stop arguing, you stop being critical and really trying to contradict your opinions, and there is a small product crisis that happens within the team at this point.
Yeah, I feel you. Back then, I was working for Skype, so there was like stuff to make sure that Skype is free on the Ukraine side if they want to use it to be able to communicate to their loved ones. And at the same time, we had both Russians and Koreans on the team. So, well, I can't say the thing where the things were tense, because it's not like they started hating each other or like taking sides. It was just seeing pain from both sides. One, because they represented a nation that was, well, the aggressor, and they did not identify with that. But that pain was nothing compared to what the Ukrainians felt, and that was thermal time. But I guess let's focus on how that changed. Maybe not the war
Two
specific, but
things. Two
how.
things
Yeah.
actually we identified here. So the first one was stakeholders working
Mhm.
together, a little bit divided, and the other thing is really the remote. Like we are not being able to be in the same room to close to vibe together to really connect. And what was the solution? I think for me personally, it was very challenging, really, because this connection with your team, and a team where you rely on to build features together, basically slowly disappears. And what I shifted from, and this was a huge shift for me personally, and it developed me hugely, was that before this I was more oriented on the I'm gonna sort out the requirements, and we meet for me to tell them the requirements. We gather together, I share my requirements, and voila, we build the feature. But when
Mhm.
there is a lack of passion, when you're disconnected, suddenly you need to buy in the team into the solution. And my trick was, well, involve the whole team in the ideation. Don't come with the ready results, don't come with the straight requirements. Actually bring them something to chew on together with you. So in my meetings, suddenly from, hey guys, this is the tickets, let's refine it, let's discuss the requirements, it turned out to be, okay guys, I have amazing problem. Look, we have these stakeholders there. I was back then in the casino industry, so we had the stakeholders, they were CRM managers, and I'm like having a 10-minute opener explaining, okay, this is our client. They are going to do personalized ads. They need to improve their retention. More players need to come back on the website. It's very interesting. So I was really building a case for them. And then I'm like, boom, look, this is a problem. We have this problem on the table. Let's figure out a solution together. And this helped. This was a big change. And actually, I'm super proud of this part of my career, because we were in a company with 200 people, and mine was one of the most productive teams. We were hitting all deadlines, and everything was to the schedule. It was very interesting. But the team, it was very passionate. It was really from just engineers who code to people who are there to solve problems, which was huge.
So the quick question is: did you use Mural, Figma Jam, or just plain screen share with MS Paint when needed?
Well, I was doing a lot of diagrams. Back then, I used this diagram IO, Draw IO, actually. This was
Yeah, I know.
Draw IO. It's a retro tool. Right now, I'm definitely working with Miro. It's much more superior, but
Mhm.
you need to be able to be visual in these meetings. Like when you're describing a problem, you need to have a short pitch. So I was using Jira, Confluence, the standard stuff. So nothing new back then. But
Mhm.
again, a very well articulated problem statement, a very well articulated user journeys. It's things that we define together with the team. And I was a little bit sick when it comes to documentation, but I hate this back and forth that happens. And with remote teams, this is very expensive. Like my Slack being totally busy all the time, this is getting very expensive. So you want to do stuff once, and you want to describe things in a proper manner and make sure that everybody understands them properly within your team. So things that nowadays are much easier now, actually.
Yeah, I actually always was. I was a remote veteran because I started my career remotely working for a startup that operated in Barcelona. I was owned by British people, and I was the lonely Polish person first to join them, and still in my university years. But back then, my remote internet was like 100 megabyte of internet per month on a dongle, so that I can do some work regardless of free Wi-Fi, which back then wasn't uh, too prevalent, and there simply was no Wi-Fi. So I had memories of like driving and being on a meeting while having a laptop open next to me with the dongle, and talking to my boss and pretending I'm not in the car because I wasn't supposed to be. So yeah, that made me prepared to be effective as a remote worker. But I would say that remote is very good for individual contributors to like sit down, do your stuff, focus, have the control to turn on your Slack, turn on your Teams, turn it off, and do your stuff much more efficient. But when it comes to comms, to brainstorming, planning, it's somehow still better in the room. I'm not sure what is that, but it's simply better, easier to understand one another. And I have a theory that it's like the weakest link. If one person has a bad connection, bad video, or uh, whatever that brings the meeting down, then if everyone has crispy connection, studio level mics, they are still feeling the disadvantage of having one person that takes the average down.
Hmm. Okay, I can relate to that. Connectivity is always an issue and problem with headphones and stuff. It's crazy. What I'm doing basically is, you run through stuff. Like you have all your team within a meeting, somebody's lagging behind, you just run through it. And that's where it's very helpful to have software that can record the conversations, things that can summarize, because sometimes people are in trouble. They're in some spooky place where like they don't have a proper connection, and that's it. You can't delay the whole meeting because you just gather them and you need to move on.
I have like a little bit an off script question, but very connected to it. Um, on one hand, I'm constantly trying to leverage AI at work, whether that's my business here work or at my Stepstone work, to take the benefit of how can we be more efficient, whether that's using an LLM to like grab meeting notes and create user stories from that. I'm automating some stuff in my process here at home by vibe coding, and I can see how many hours I can save. However, at the same time, I watched a video yesterday from a YouTuber. I can't remember the name at the moment, but the thesis was that just like you are getting worse and worse in area orientation because of Google Maps, we are putting too much decisions and too much of thinking to LLMs and other AIs. And where do you think there's border? Where do we stop being more efficient and we are just getting worse at our job, and uh, allowing our creativity and the human element to die off, just to succumb to laziness rather than seeking efficiencies?
Hmm. All right. So that's a very complex question. And in the
So we,
context of
Mhm.
product management, let's take product management. So, I first of all, you always, as a product manager, you always have things that are not creative and that they are like chores, like these tasks that you just have to do them. We call them chores when an engineer needs to do it, like a bug or a small fix that just somebody requested it. So those chores, please, I'm happy to automate. I'm happy to give to the LLM to do. When it comes to decision making, however, we need to remember one thing: like LLM can shortcut there. It can make proposals and stuff, but there is one key point, and it's about responsibility. So you are responsible to make the call, and I think this is something that's not going to change for quite a while. And no matter how the very LLM environment develops, I think it's the last thing that we're going to allow them to do is to make decisions, because we can't make them responsible as of now. And this responsibility is key. So when I'm a product manager and I'm outsourcing things to AI, I'm always thinking about this responsibility. Like, am I ready to just make a code that was suggested by AI without thinking very, very critically around it? And this is where expertise comes. So the more expertise you have, the more critically you can think on those nice suggestions that are always positive and very shiny, and you just like want to go after them. So yes, when you know that there is responsibility and where you know that you need to make the call, you can decide on your own how much you want to shortcut this area. Like, do you want to make your research? Like, it gives you research, it gives you the codes, but do you want to go to click those links and to validate it? So depends on what kind of product management manager you are. But if you want to be really responsible and you want to excel at your work, you better double check, no matter how intelligent the AI today is.
So that's actually a pretty great segue to my next question. And the question is, what frameworks or mental models are you using daily to stay sharp and strategic and like maintain that independence from AI assistance?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so again, in relation to the shiny stuff, so the LLMs can push a lot of shiny stuff that sound pretty reasonable. Actually, they always sound reasonable. So I do something. It's an exercise, and I do those as a CEO right now. But I was doing them as a product manager as well. I call them compasses. So basically, in our organization, every head has a compass that's been agreed between all C-level stakeholders in our company, and I'm building those compasses for also product managers or also for helping the CEOs I've worked for to build such compasses. So let me briefly give you the abstraction here. So let's say we are doing a product management compass. The first thing I want to define is, and this comes from my team, I'm trying to understand what are the inputs that my team needs in order to make decisions faster. So let's say my team needs to know technology stack. My team needs to know the vision, what are the values of the product. My team needs to know what are the key stakeholders that are using the product, who is the buying persona, what are the problems that we are solving. So I'm bundling all these and I'm putting them in what I call a compass, and it's a strategic layer. So I'm defining those as a product manager, as the leader of my team. I define those very well. I communicate them very carefully with my team. I explain them. We can even argue on those. They can have their own input. We can change, tweak stuff, but we agree on this as a source of truth. And we need to agree on this on a source of truth, because this is going to help us make decisions. Because I hate when I'm in a room, we have a problem and it's a complex problem and you don't have what to guide you and what to help you to get the right answers. And this is it. So when I'm using AI, I always have a compass. I know what's valuable, what's valid. And sometimes if you're like a geek like me, you can even try to inject the AI with this compass so it can stick to it and actually follow it. It works, very nice. But it gives me the critical thinking. I know what's important and what's not.
I will admit that I think I did succumb a little bit to the AI trap. So I do have to step back a little bit more often to get things thought through in deeper, especially that the tasks I'm doing now are more back end and front end. They have a front end element, but unless you start drawing the diagrams, you start asking questions, you hear the comments from the stakeholders, pretty hard not to miss small stuff. And I was always terrible. I had a terrible eye for detail. Even just noticed that when I welcomed people on LinkedIn here, I did it with a typo that I, for the love of me, have not seen until it was way too late. So, mm, how do
This
you
is
deal with? Mhm.
this is very funny. Like this is where you can be opinionated as hell. In the product management, we have always, oh no, opinions, or don't bring data, don't bring opinions, and but when I'm talking to AI, I'm pretty opinionated because I don't want like an easy agreement. So when I'm, let's say, I'm writing a prompt, I'm saying something to the system, and it gives me like this nice answer, and I'm like, hey, wait a minute, I didn't want you to answer to this question. Let me tell you what I think, and this is my opinion. So I'm really pushing opinions there, and I'm trying to make it contradict as much as possible, because I don't want somebody who always agrees with me, or I don't want somebody who I agree with all the time. So opinions, actually, this is something that's very interesting, and it can be applied here. Opinionated battle.
Yeah, it's a nice contrast when you have an overly excited and optimistic agreeing with you ChatGPT, and then you go back to developers that have much more strong will than that LLM.
Mm.
So, but
So you
I also wanted to, mhm.
yeah,
I
yeah,
also
just
wanted to
trying.
ask how.
You go for it. Sorry.
Sorry, I just wanted to ask how you keep up nowadays with lots of tasks. How do you organize your list? Do you have a single source of truth for your to-dos, or are you like me that you have layers of to-do lists, and like the paper is more important than the list on the phone. The phone is more important than the list in the notepad. Notepad is more important than Trello, and so on and so on.
Oh, this is an interesting one. So, first of all, I built during the Easter my own to-do app with Lovable,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm really strict on how I follow those priorities. But look, so I have the following system, and it's very interesting. So every week I have priorities, weekly priorities. They are more like high-level priorities. Like this week we need to push sales. This week we need to push, let's say, product development. Roadmap is important. So it's a high-level priorities. They are not tasks. And then when I start my day, every day I make sure I get, and I write it on my tablet. So I write my to-do list always written down by hand, and very carefully align this list with my priorities. When the list is set and I drink my coffee over it, I actually very often have this other, but it's a paper and pen, and I write those back to it. So I really like to scratch the tasks when I kill them. And this is it. So I always have a high level priorities. They're on a weekly basis, and my daily priorities. And then if you have some big projects to follow, or things that are going a bit longer in time, you should also have these monthly priorities as well, and stick to everything. But what's a big trap in product management, and that's why I have so carefully my to-do list polished and prepared, we tend to be very reactive. So very often we speak to stakeholders that kick in, and they're very vocal about what they want, and suddenly you
Mm-hmm.
throw your list and you start satisfying them. Oh, okay, I'm going to help you with that. And this is terrible, because you are losing focus of your priorities. So my priorities, apart from just being written, I put Pomodoro blocks on each one of them. So I say, this one I'm going to spend three 30-minute blocks, 25 block, 5-minute break. This one I'm going to spend 2. This one I'm going to spend 4. I distribute my day. And when something urgent comes, the first thing I do, I write it down, I estimate it, I see how much Pomodoros I need to take care with it, and then I'm thinking, okay, so what should I get rid of? Because I have limited time. My time is a resource, it's limited. And you just look at your list, and if you don't find anything that you would like to push back, then you push it for the next day, right? And this is how you keep
Mm-hmm.
yourself from being non-reactive, because being reactive, especially with some stakeholders, can be a big trap for the product manager.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I have my next question would be: imagine we have some weird lawgiver that, let's say, imposed great tariffs on product management tools, and you can only afford three right now. Which three would you
Mm.
choose?
Oh, that's a very interesting question. So I think the first two I'm going to choose is the one I'm going to communicate with my team. So I always say to my friends, a product manager without a team is a product manager without a job. So the first one is about communication with the team. And actually, this one I'm going to give to my team to choose. I'm not going to choose it. I'm gonna
Mhm.
say my team. What's the team? What's the software that you'd like us to use together in order to communicate? Uh, Many people do Jira. I have found Linear exceptional these days. I'm a very big fan. I don't know if you have heard of it. It's really lightweight. Yeah, you know it, right?
Mhm.
It's
Yeah, I haven't
it's very
seen it. I just
lightweight.
know sometimes when I write about Jira, the linear is being pointed out as a good alternative.
It's super fast. It's very nice for collaboration. It's just very lightweight. It's very lightweight, and the engineering teams I have worked for the past 4 years really enjoy it. So it's a good choice. But anything, I have worked with different softwares. I have been using Shortcut, Trello, whatever. It doesn't really matter because this is the software that I communicate with, and I want you to feel very comfortable. Now
Mhm.
let's see what's the second one. The second one is something that can do the job of a whiteboard, especially if I'm with a remote team. I love to draw when I am presenting something. It's much more impactful. And as a product management manager, you need to be impactful. So you need to make people trust you. You need to make people believe what you're saying, and being able to draw, to write out stuff, to show them, to make diagrams in real time. It's making a difference. So for me, that tool would be either Miro, or if you're an iOS user, Freeform is very nice. And you basically enter with your tablet, and you just share screen, and you draw on it. And Miro doesn't need that because you can enter the whole team in it. And the third software, that's interesting. Maybe I don't need a third software. Maybe only two is good enough. But in this world, because I became a little bit lazy, I would choose an AI-powered software for sure. The popular ChatGPT option would be amazing. I would also go for Gemini, and also I would pick the software we are building, ThinkPilot, as well. These days, I replaced both Gemini and ChatGPT with the ThinkPilot. It's very convenient to extend yourself and to try to really uh, give the lazy work to somebody else. Documentation is something that I mentioned at the beginning is super critical for me. So keeping the documentation up to date and produce very fast, it's amazing, because through this communication you speak to cross-functional stakeholders, to the product marketing manager, to the sales manager. You do your presentation for the C-level, to the product owner if you have such, to the team. So this is taking a lot of time, and I would actually would love to spend that time with my customers. So those are the three.
So, what processes and like aspects of product work do you consider one that, well, historically were necessary, but in the modern times they can seem wasteful because we are having opportunities to automate them or, well, delegate them to non-living intelligence.
Mm. Okay, so I am a big believer of data. I think
Mhm,
this is the best weapon a product manager can build for himself in order to defend against opinionated stakeholders.
mhm.
And unfortunately, I'm not the best specialist at wielding this weapon, the data weapon. And I always feel dependent on other specialists, like business developer, like business analysts, sorry, data specialists, to build for myself dashboards and pull the data from the system. And this is a place where I see the application of the new technologies, because I can really communicate with this data much easier now. Unfortunately, it's not yet still super accessible. I mean, you need to integrate properly to connect the data and do. You still need to, like, specialists to do the tricks, but at some point you can have a setup where you can literally conversate with your data, and the AI so learn or doing the queries and making the reports and giving you the insights. Because as a product manager, you don't need to know how to crunch numbers. You need to know how to read insights. That's what you need, the insights. And yeah, if I can get to those in an easy way, that would be amazing.
Awesome. I myself find it so much easier now to create documentations or like simplify emails or like the data flow, but not data as in like usage numbers, but as in like putting just scrappy notes or like taking a piece of Slack and very easily transforming into a professionally sounded documentation that saves me so many hours of work that would otherwise be boring, to say the least. You are not getting better when you do it manually. It's not this type of writing. It's like this type of boring writing, which I did excel at some point. Right, my wife always saw, never realized, never understood how easy it is for me to write like self-evaluation, because it's always the same like summary of yourself in a way that sounds corporate language, and it's just sit down, write it, get over it. It doesn't matter. It's like everyone pretends like it's a big event, but in fact it's just like a ceremony that the corporate religion requires, and everyone has to like pretend it's very important. But all in all, it's what is important comes from management, from strategy, from your successes, and know like the quarterly annual goals and how you did them really matter for the product or the company, especially if they are just put there forcibly just to fill in some guidance. So it's like corporate religion, as I mentioned. But
But you need to
regardless
play the
of,
game.
yeah, you need to play the game.
Yeah.
You need, you're a product manager, the company is your scene, and you need to have the finest play in the world.
Yeah, I can relate and 100% agree with you. This was huge pain in the ass. I actually came from marketing, so I was very good at
Mhm.
copywriting, and my tickets were always very well written. My resume, my briefs, and this was very helpful. But it takes what's the fact? Like, it takes too much time, and and uh, and time is actually of an essence today, and it's crazy because, you know, I'm speaking to many product managers nowadays, like maybe 15 product managers a week. And what I realized, that everybody is feeling like, my product team, before I was pushing them to deliver faster. Now they're come to me like, what's the next task? And the problem is, I don't have the next task prepared. So this is a huge trend. That's right. I think this is the next game changer for the product management. We are becoming a bottlenecks, because suddenly the engineering became much faster. Like, coding became much faster. The teams are developing much faster, better, with less bugs, and it's very interesting. So yeah, you need to save time, and what you said is a good opportunity to save that time from less documentation.
Hmm. Yeah, I totally agree with you. And what can I say? I mean, we are living in a very interesting times, and I think that once we are able to strip the corporate processes, we are not strip, automate. Once we don't have to spend too much time in Jira to write everything in detail, and we can focus on the real human connection. It's where the actual product management happens. Because it's not about writing the perfect ticket. It's not about spending weeks and days looking into data. It's being able to identify the right problem that once solved will translate to real business to your company, and then work with the great people around you to find a solution that you can market, that you can profit off, that will either create or contribute to a great product. And this is fun, especially if you have people that have passion in the room, and those talks, those um, free flow of ideas is what makes this job so fun. It's only when you need to write dozens of reports, uh, put in a lot of like paperwork, when you need to study notes and do all you need to do in order to keep the data flow, it's when it starts to get boring and difficult. What other problems do you see with our positions nowadays, and how would you approach those issues?
All right, so I recently met a very interesting problem, but it's not for all kind of organization. It's more relatable to bigger organizations. And what bothers and I'm speaking now for heads of product. Right? What bothers the heads
Mm-hmm.
of product there is resources. It's a resource game. So every time when they start a new project, they need to invest significant resources to drive it forward. But there is a point in which you are driving into a big uncertainty, like you are trying to build, let's call it a proof of concept. You're building a proof of concept, and this proof of concept at certain point is very shaky, like you're making a lot of assumptions. You don't have good access to information. The many people request a little bit different things, so you need to catch those nuances, and at some point you just want to validate. So the problem, and I'm speaking again for like companies like 200 people, 300 people plus, to very large enterprises, they invest significant resources into development of projects that can take 3 to 5 to 6 months, even more. And their problem is how to get to a proof of concept as soon as possible, and how we can actually validate that with our end customer, again, in a very cheap way. Because, in order for, and this is a bit in the past, but you need to involve, to get to a proof of concept, you need to involve designers. Very often you need to involve your actually 100% you need to involve your team leader from the engineering. You need to align with a lot of C-level managers. You need to get them into a meeting to discuss with them, to shape the requirements, to polish all those. And this is getting super, super expensive. And
Mm-hmm.
then when you don't have this proof of concept, and you launch on a high risk, very often you risk to get into an unsuccessful launch, which can cost millions, because you involve, and again, in the big organizations, you involve marketing, you involve sales, you involve many people to make the launch happen. It's not just we develop it, we launch it, and that's it there. It's many associated costs. So this is a huge problem.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. So that leads me actually to already mentioned Think Pilot. What drove you to your mission on making PMs more successful and more efficient?
Well, honestly, it first started from a personal problem. So I already mentioned it a little bit, but at some point, I was working in this company called Uplisting, and my CEO was, after every launch, he comes to me and he's asking, "Okay, Stoyman, was the launch successful?"
Mm-hmm.
And it's a very sophisticated question. So is it successful or not? Like it's a mess. You need to, of course, relate it to revenue ultimately, but to get to that, it's super complex, not so easy. You don't have the infrastructure very often. So my initial desire was to go there and build a system that you can really integrate with your data, and you can communicate and you can answer all the tough questions that your CEO is asking. That was my initial idea. But this is not what we built at the end. And I will tell you why. Because I'm a product manager. I'm a product manager who wants to start a company, and I'm aware of this problem. It's my personal problem, but I'm building for the market, right? So I'm not just gonna start building a software for myself. And I had to go and make a research the old school way, like what you mentioned: make connections, go speak to people, really be curious, try to understand what their problems are. So I started to speak with a lot of product managers, and what we identified back there is a very interesting gap in the dark area of what we call ideation, where a lot of time is spent for the product manager. It's a creative space, and it's responsible for the outcome. It's responsible for the resources that you're going to invest into every new initiative, and it has a lot of challenges in it. So it's not so straightforward. And yeah, this is it. So we wanted to plug into this ideation space where you start with the raw idea and the outcome is the development ready requirements. And I started again interviewing a lot of people, again the old school product way, and just what are the problems? What stops you from making it faster? Like where are the bottlenecks? And we discovered many problems. Bart, we discovered problems with the data, like it's spread all across the room. So you don't, like, you're trying to find the truth, but then there is data bombarding you from everywhere. So where is the truth? So analyzing this information, it was very challenging. Recording it, like somehow capturing it and inserting it, putting it on the table, very challenging. Then when it comes to prioritization, you have at the end a lot of problems. So how do you pick the right ones? How do you get to the requirements very fast? How do you get to a proof of concept very fast? How do you sketch, make the visuals very fast? How you communicate with C-level management? How you communicate? Many problems. It's a mess. that's why the role is so important.
Oh, yes, yes, it is. And only if the PM is organized, focused, can the team also be organized and focused. So that also leads me to my next question about Think Pilot and how did you? Well, maybe before that, I just want to tell you a little thing that came up to my mind is that you're telling me that you started building a tool that was supposed to help you, and then you realized you shouldn't build for yourself, you should build for the market. I, as a that beginning engineer, like product manager, did the exact opposite. I needed some tools in my startup to be a better, back then, support manager, and I started learning PHP, SQL, just to have tools to be able to like see data about our clients. So I built the very primitive looking but very functional tool that's only for one company, and I put like hours and hours into it. It helped me save days, if not years, of work. But at the same time, it's hilarious to hear you being having the right PM talent and business sense in the moment where you started creating something, whereas, well, my work wouldn't probably translate into any business, but I can recall that I never even considered how to change that into something different than it was. And you have to be smart and fast in order to identify some opportunities. So how a tool like ThinkPilot will help product managers make those smarter, faster, and more aligned with stakeholder expectations decisions.
Uh, Before I answer your question, I have an interesting remark to like to say here. So, look, we started. Let's go for the market. But when we define the problems, when we defined everything that's out there, and we started building a product vision, what we are gonna build ultimately, we had a moment in our startup when I just went and said, guys, now we build for ourselves. we need to use this at SAP, right? So from building for the market, we literally had a whole month where we needed to build only for ourselves, because we were also users of the platform. We were potential clients. So Think Pilot is not only for product management. This is a very important thing. A Think Pilot is because product management is in a collaboration always, multiple stakeholders, and team always there with you to brainstorm. So we wanted to plug into the whole workflow. So let me try to explain how it helps. The first thing that we identified as very important was to sort out the data mess. So think of our platform like a system that can connect to your whole data knowledge of the company. Like we connect to your Google Drive, where you keep a lot of files and information. We connect to your Confluence, to your Jira, Linear. Now we are starting to work on integrations with Intercom, with HubSpot, with Zendesk. So we want to be integrated with your whole knowledge stack. And then the magic happens in the same way as a product manager would approach a project. So he goes there and he needs to start a new initiative. So he discovers. So the first part is the discovery part. So you discover something, and you can actually use the system to plug into this whole mess of information. And you can ask, hey, Think Pilot, let's analyze the last 60 days of intercom conversations. Give me 3 ideas that are being raised by our clients and are considered painful. So you don't have a strict workflow, and this is the first realization that we had when we started the project. Companies have different workflows, different teams, different workflows. So we were trying to fit the product into a workflow. Now the product fits any workflows. You can start with whatever you want. And this is the first part. So we are trying to help the discovery, analyzing huge amounts of information because we are connecting to these data sources. And out of them, you actually start an initiative and a product initiative. So what happens within this product initiative? It's a brainstorming space where we have this Think Pilot assistant. And basically, it's helping you sort out a lot of product management tasks. You can analyze trends, analyze competitors. You can ask to write PRDs. You can ask to write brief for your designer. You can ask it to, very soon, you're going to be able to ask to create the mockups for your project. So it's really trying to insert itself as your right hand, and you ask to do stuff, it does these things, and it plugs them back into your initiative. And this is very huge. So you start with a small project, and it gets fed with data as you explore, as you naturally would do with as a product manager. So in other words, we are not trying to change, we are trying to speed it up and integrate within what you're currently doing. And for me, this is a huge bet that we made, but people don't like somebody to come and say, now you need to use this tool and it works in this particular way, adapt to it.
So how is Think Pilot different from, well, traditional PM tools? We all know like Product Board, we know Figma for that matter, if you mentioned the automated or AI-driven concept from UI. As a product manager, it's actually very important to realize what's the thing that's your unique selling point here.
Well, the beauty of it is that for us, Figma is an integration. Product Board, it's an integration. In Product Board, you have your strategy. We need that strategy, so we want that context. In Figma, we have how your product looks and feel. We want that context as well. So we are not trying to replace those products because they are having a lot of context about your product. What we are trying to do, and where is our uniqueness, we are trying to gather all these context in one place. So the next time you start an initiative and you want to speed it up, you speak with an intelligent a system who knows what's going on, right? It's not like hallucinating, it's not randomly throwing some advices. It's connected to your project, it's connected to your business, and this is huge.
So, reminiscing of Michael Jackson's song, I need to call Billie Jean's question and ask, how does ThinkPilot leverage AI at all?
I'm trying to not use this word at all. It's our head of AI forbids me to use the AI word at all, but that's why you don't hear it. But we are utilizing models to capture the data, to derive context out of this data, to connect this context in your initiative, to support you along the way. You are training the system to be personalized. So, for example, you have your own style of writing tickets. You upload that, so you're training the system. It's fully based on AI. That's the reality. But we are adding a huge context around product management, and we are integrating within the workflow, not just throwing AI like let's throw AI in it. No, we are analyzing very carefully the problem we want to solve, and we pick the best technology to resolve it. And very interesting. What's very interesting, uh, like 6-7 months ago, this is at the very beginning of our project. We are a very young company. We discovered that AI is huge. The technology is huge. It has capacity, but actually without proper UX, it's not going to work out. So if you think of Think Pilot, it's huge investment in technology, huge investment in properly and designing and thinking about how it's going to look, how it's going to feel, what the workflows are, how you gonna do your job without feeling any difference from before, and just experience the value, how to tackle the problem properly. It's a huge investment in a user experience.
Which I need to make a little bit of side note because it's super impressive nowadays that you use AI and you don't make it a marketing slogan. That's something that actually changes, in my opinion, a very useful tech that unlocks features that were simply not possible or not scalable previously, and made it to a tech craze similar to like 3D, to crypto, to Web3 stuff that like is built in order to attract investors rather than serve the users. So I am in love. Maybe that's a big word, but I love when the companies actually focus on the user problem and leverage AI to solve it rather than just put AI on the table and say, we need this in our brochure. What can we do with it? And then little monsters that make no rhyme or sense are popping into the product. So big kudos, and I'd love to meet your head of AI one time for another interview.
For sure. and
Mhm.
and 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 here, what's important. It's again this skill of a good product manager, where you bring the empathy for the user, you bring the problem on the table to a fully technological team, right? Because
Mhm.
our team is, most of it is engineers and specialists in the sphere. So you need to go and to say them, guys, back off with this technology. It's very nice, it's very sexy, but let me explain you how the experience should look like. Let me explain you the problem. Let me explain you who are we doing it for. And this is huge. This is huge. uh, we had this very interesting period of our startup where everybody had an interesting idea. So, the technology has many capacities, and everybody was throwing boom, boom ideas left and right. And we were like, oh, wow, we have a backlog now of 1,000 items, and it's our first month. and I had to change the culture of the company. I started, guys, every suggestion should come with a carefully articulated problem. No matter who brings it on the table, bring me the problem first. Let's think the solution together. maybe your idea is the best one on the table, but give me the problem. And this was a big game changer. This was a big game changer. Instead of like product trap, like build, we turned into problem solvers, which is what you want, which is the role of the product manager, to build a culture for where problem solving actually lives on.
You did mention that you focus a lot of users that you build for them. So my question is, who is Think Pilot for in terms of like all sorts of PM? Maybe it's more for juniors, seniors, head of products. Who do you picture as your ideal paying customer, so to say?
Okay, so we are thinking in the following way. We integrate the Think Pilot into companies. In these companies,
Mhm.
you have many stakeholders. So we are trying to understand who is who. So for example, let's say head of product, chief technical officer, buying persona, product manager, engineering team, user persona. For one, we build features and make it fit into their workflow. For the others, we build value propositions and explain how we actually make the team much more successful, much more empowered. We have also people like security, like they need to check is it secure and so on and so forth. So we are working on that as well. And you need to understand, but we are B2B software mainly. We also have recently launched individual plans, which are one is called Viber, so it's really for vibe coders. We realized that with Think Pilot, you can save a lot of your credits for Lovable or whatever you're using out there, because you bring to the system very well written requirements, and it just goes pretty fast. But our main target, if you're speaking of ICP, it's companies and therefore many stakeholders within it.
ICP, yeah, ideal client profile. That's what I was trying to recall. And instead, I made some abomination abbreviation. Oh, that actually, I think, is a signal for me to slowly go to like a cool down period as we are approaching the end, and my problems formulating sentences might only get worse as we go along. So, really, thank you for this enlightening session. I can tell you that I was looking at the user numbers, and while they weren't like record breaking in terms of number of people joining, I can tell you that this was the session that made everyone sit from start to finish. We didn't lose too many people, so we didn't bore you. We had fun telling you how to look at your position as a product manager, how to brace yourself what's coming in the future, and how to, well, become better by knowing how to be more efficient, well prepared. And I'm pretty sure that Think Pilot is a great tool to help you with that. I'm posting in the chat a link to Think Pilot, where you have a 2 weeks free trial to check it out, see how it helps you, your teams, and perhaps you will be the next person or the company to work with Stoyman and be more efficient. And from myself, as the theme of this was tools, tactics, and tech to like make you future-proof PM. That's also like the topic of the book I've recently released as a co-author with two amazing people, with Diana and Teresa. So if you want to check that out, I also left a link in the comment section. But before I go, Stoyman, would you like to say some words of encouragement, inspiration to all the people who stayed the whole hour in the middle of the week to hear us babbling about product management?
First of all, thanks. Retention is amazing, and second of all, I'll end up with an advice for any level of product manager.
Mm-hmm.
Look around yourself in the company where you are, search for a problem that's within your reach, and just try to solve it. I think this is the best way to scale up to a great product management career.
Yeah, I think I have to like be your echo chamber and just stress that AI, no AI, 3D, Web3, crypto, it's never about the tech. It's never about how you do it. It's what your users see, it's the problem you solve, and it's the feeling of a good product that did what it promised in a way that it was nice, easy, and didn't make you feel like a fool or that someone is reaching out over to your wallet to take more than the solving of the problem is worth. So that's the essence. That's what we want to achieve. And believe me, it's much more work than it sounds. And you need those tools, frameworks, tactics, tech to help you out. Because if we were to do all that by hitting a rock over another rock to do some nodes, well, for one thing, we wouldn't be coding a lot, but the whole progress would come to a still. And now that we have all those tools, all that possibilities, it's about the speed, it's about the quality, and marrying them together to be first one on the market and be unique, be user centric, and bring something new, excellent, and innovative to the table. Just like hopefully we both did today for you. Thank you, Steinman, for joining me. Thank you, everyone who asked questions on chat. I'll be replying tomorrow to additional comments in the chat/comment section. And for those of you who are in the middle of the day, have a great rest of your day. For me and Steinman, it's good night. And well, thank you again, and see you on the next live show. Bye bye.
Thank you, Bart. Good night. Bye.
Good night. Bye.